Hi, Ron LeGrand here. Before we get started with the podcast, I thought you might want to know that I recently recorded a 90-minute online training about how we make so much money today in the terms business. That's on pretty houses in pretty neighborhoods, not the junk houses that we have to go rehab or wholesale. I go through step by step on exactly what I and thousands of my students are doing right now to make the fastest and the easiest money in real estate without using your money or credit. If you're interested in doing just that, go to thementorpodcast.com/free training. See you there.
Welcome to the Mentor Podcast, where the most highly motivated entrepreneurs come to get their weekly dose of financial stability with host Ron LeGrand, as well as other nationally recognized thought leaders who will teach you how to get, grow, and protect your wealth.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mentor Podcast. I have my friend Chris Miles on the screen with me today. And I'm looking forward to talking to him because he and I share a lot of the same opinions about money and investors and how they handle money and basically the stupid stuff they do sometimes to keep them from creating wealth. And you're looking at a guy here that has retired twice before he was 39 years old. On the other side, the old guy with the white hair just started when he was 35 years old. So we have quite a contrast here. Chris, I probably never met anybody that knows more about you than you. So I'm going to let everybody tell everybody how important you are, okay?
That's right. Let's just talk about how amazing I am, right? Yeah, I mean, you kind of mentioned it. So my company's Money Ripples. I actually am what's called an anti-financial advisor. So what we do is we're actually anti-mutual funds, anti-stock market, even though I used to be in that space. But really teach people how to get out of the rat race today versus waiting 30 or 40 years to hopefully save up for retirement and all that kind of junk that you're always taught to do with the Dave Ramseys and the Susie Ormans of the world, right?
Conventional wisdom. Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Conventional doesn't necessarily mean it's successful.
Yeah, that's correct. So you say you retired twice when you're 39 years old. I want to know how to do that.
That means you have to screw up the first time. That's what it means.
Okay.
So I started out I was that mainstream financial advisor back about 20 years ago. Did that for a while, but realized it wasn't helping people become financially free. So of course, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. Mm-hmm. And one of my friends, Doug, he was in the real estate space. Him and his dad were partnering on deals and flipping properties and doing such, and got to the point where his dad had doubled his income as a professor at that local university.
Which wouldn't be hard to do as a professor, would it?
Yeah, no, especially with the university he was at, they like to underpay you sometimes.
Yeah.
So I remember we were getting this debate about what's better, stocks or real estate, right? Because when you're a financial advisor, you're trained that real estate only goes up with inflation, right? It's like maybe 3% a year. That's all the values really go up. It's not that big of a deal. You don't make that much money. Mm-hmm. And he finally just stopped. He said, Chris, how many of your clients, even the ones you inherited after decades of working with financial advisors, are financially free where they don't worry about money? I thought about it. I said, none, because they all worry about money. They all worry about running out. Even if they're retired doctors wonder if they're going to run out of money. Mm-hmm. He said, well, great job. Way to help nobody. I don't think he was expecting the answer to be that bad, but I was being honest. No one was financially free. And then he said, how about this, Chris? Out of all of you guys as financial advisors, how many of you are financially free, not off the commissions you're earning, but actually doing these mutual fund investments? As I thought about it, I said, well, I know guys that have been working here since the late 1970s. I'd have to say none of them. And he said, well, there's your problem. And so he got me kind of down this path. I remember reading the book, Who Took My Money, which is a lesser known Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. I also listened to a radio show back in the AM talk radio days, not the podcast days like we have now, right? But AM talk radio with these local real estate investors, and it completely opened my eyes because it was all about cash flow and passive income.
Yeah.
And it rocked my world to the point where a few months later, I quit being a financial advisor, vowed never to go back to teaching about money again. I would just be a mortgage broker, because in 2006, everybody needed a mortgage broker. And of course, be a ballroom dance instructor on the side. And that's what I kind of did. Yeah. And So I was doing that, but of course I had to know what these guys knew. It drove me nuts that they understood this game. So I started to get mentored by some of these guys. And the next thing I know, months later, I was able to be financially independent myself. Granted, at that time, I only needed like $3,500 to be financially independent. It didn't take much, but that's where I got. And then I was 28 years old, almost 29. I wondered, well, what am I going to do with my life now? Now what? Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to just stop because I'm the type of person I can't just quit and retire, right? So eventually, 2007, the opportunity came up with some partners. They go and create our own company to teach people how to get out of the rat race. And lo and behold, everybody we were teaching were real estate investors that were really just flippers, right? They're just people flipping properties. They were sloppy. So when 2007 and 2008 started hitting, they were out of money. So all the people we were teaching couldn't pay us. We were having issues too because I was starting to get lazy with my properties because I thought, well, I don't need cash flow. I could be negative cash flow on property if appreciation keeps going up. So I was banking on appreciation, totally blew it. Between that and everything else, I was in the hole about $15,000, $16,000 a month. And eventually it became over $1 million in debt. So I went from like retired, financially independent to upside down millionaire, where I was over $1 million in debt, in the hole, and had to dig my way back out. I didn't file for bankruptcy, although it could have easily happened. And I know you've had, even a better story back then than I had. But I had to claw my way back out. Eventually I was able to pay off the debt and become financially independent the second time, this time a lot wiser than I was the first time around, where I was focused on multiple streams, more predictable. I like to say boring is sexy type of passive investments. And next thing you know, by end of 2016, I was out of the rat race again.
Yep. Well, what you just described is a very common story, actually. Mm-hmm. And you are correct. The only really way to make a lot of money is first to be stupid and do everything wrong before you learn how to do it right. Go to all the classes you want, but you get out into the real arena, you don't really learn much. And you are also correct that in 2008, when the shit hit the fan, and it did big time. In fact, it amazes me how few people I actually run across, Chris, that have any idea what happened in September of 2008. I guess largely because they weren't in the arena playing the game and they didn't lose big. I run across them from time to time, but mistake I made was I was developing properties to resell. And you hit it right on the head. If I would have been developing properties to rent, to produce income, it would have worked out totally different. Because the market crashed, there was nobody left to buy those properties of any kind that I was developing. And I had multiple things going on. There will always be places for people to rent, and always people need to rent as long as we live and beyond. And it always has been that way since this thing called real estate came into existence. Incidentally, I have I wished I had it in here. I have a advertisement out of a magazine advertising a real estate course for sale at $29 and $2 a week and $2 down in 1902. People have no idea how far this thing goes back. So what do you see? I think you hit it. Most real estate investors out there are flippers. And I look at them with a saddened heart when I see, we go to these mastermind meetings where I think you and I met. And we see all these people with 150, 200 wholesale deals a year. And, that's great. That's a lot of money. All right. It's not a lot of money. But then what? As I always preach, what next? Got to get up and go do another deal. You quit, it quits. You got no wealth. You got no residual income. You got no appreciation, no depreciation, nothing going for you but those quick checks of which you got to give half to the United States government. I did the same thing. I started a wholesale deal, 1982, but it took me a long time before I started looking at real estate a different way as a cash flow machine, like you're describing. And I think that's the point you're getting to, is that real estate investors probably need to take a look at tomorrow instead of just thinking about today and getting in this habit of going through this business with blinders on and doing one thing and walking over the dollars to get to the dimes. Every time I take the stage, I preach that. I often wonder, is anybody listening? Is anybody listening? But you never know who's listening and who's not. I heard you say you went to a seminar way back and that turned you around, just as I did. So maybe if we keep preaching it, there will be others listening. So what are you doing nowadays?
Well, that's true. I mean, I'll tell you, like you said, like I used to think every real estate investor was more like me, have learned what I learned. And so that was focused on how do I make sure I'm out of the rat race, as Kiyosaki would say, right? How do I make sure I have enough passive income coming in to be financially independent? And you're right. I mean, there's people out there that are amazing at having a real estate business. That doesn't mean that they are real estate investors, right? There's a big difference because you can, like you said, you do like 150, 200 transactions a year, but you're always on the hunt. You're always hunting for that next deal, that next paycheck. You're transactionally wealthy, but you're not passively wealthy.
And most of them don't do anything with the money to make them passively wealthy.
That's right. And that's the key. They always, quote unquote, reinvest in their business, but really they're spending money in their business to try to amp it up and make it bigger. But if that money doesn't come back, they don't take profit back home to then generate multiple streams of passive income outside of their business.
Well, we don't know. We're just guessing here. We're just making this up as we go. But I mean, just from my experience, especially the younger ones coming into the business, they got to go buy all the toys. And I get it. Got to have the toys, for crying out loud, especially us men. It's testosterone. We can't help it. But the toys ain't going to get you anything but losing money. And the smartest thing they could do, since they know real estate, is to take this money and put it in the income producing real estate, maybe large percentage, apartments or self-storage or whatever. But no, that's not what most of them do, as far as I can tell. Now, some of the older ones are. Some of the older ones get it. Because I see people in our group, a massive amount of apartments, a massive amount of self-storage. And, when you're thinking like that, you're thinking wealth. And then when you add the ways you can do this tax-free into there as well, using the exchanges and the IRAs and so forth, I mean, and beat the government out of that money that they're going to squander, get there a whole lot faster. So what advice would you give brand new investors coming into the business today? Now, keep in mind, now they need money like they need oxygen.
That's right.
Some of them. All right. Some of them actually don't. Some of them come in here of age, and they don't have to have the money, but sometimes they're looking for something to do. Sometimes they're looking for retirement. In fact, most of them come in needing some kind of retirement plan because they figured, well, I better get going. I don't have that much time left to figure it out. Yeah. So what kind of advice would you give them now?
Yeah, I think it's okay temporarily when you're starting a business and in that launch phase. It's okay to reinvest the money back in and just keep turning money. But don't make that a habit. Don't get in the habit where the next thing you know, you look back 20 years from now and you say, I've just did the same thing. And so focus on profit. Don't worry about revenue. Don't even worry about number of doors you've done. I know that, like you said, there's a lot of testosterone and chest banging where people say like, well, look how many doors I've done or how many millions I've made in revenue. No one gives a crap, honestly. Like the real investors, the real business owners know that's all BS. We know that the real value is how much profit do we have? How much do I actually have to create a life for myself and for my team, right? Yeah. And so that's what I focus on is how do we get more profit back here and then take some of that profit. Like you said, don't just go and buy that Lamborghini, or whatever Ferrari that you think is cool just to show it off. That's great if you want to have a car. I'm not a car guy, so I don't care. But if you want to do something like that, make sure you start having other investments that pay for it, not the business, but have other outside investments that are paying for that sort of thing. And my advice is get as much profit as you can here, go and buy that stuff. And it could be you're cherry picking deals. If you're a wholesaler or a flipper, cherry pick some of those best deals that could turn around to be rentals. You put those in your portfolio and make it work for you. So that if you ever become a non-essential business, like we saw happen 2 years ago, if you get shut down, your business doors are shut, then at least you've got other streams of income to keep you going.
Your business doors will never be shut when you have tenants paying rent.
That's right.
You always have to have a place to live. In fact, if we look back to 2008 here in Florida, we dropped about 40% in real estate value like that, like immediately. 40%, unheard of.
Yeah.
But the rents didn't. The rents actually went up. And then this past year, I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. The rent, we are the second highest city in the country as far as rent increases last year. Second highest. Who would believe it? Jacksonville, Florida. And I mean, the rents went from an average of about $1,100 to $1,600, like overnight here. I don't see that actually changing anywhere in the near future. And I don't know what the future is going to bring, but I know people are always going to have a place to live. If I've learned anything in 40 years, it's that one, because I've been through 6 different cycles and ups and downs. And people think they got it bad right now. They should have been around back in the 80s. When I got into this thing, a prime rate was 16.8%, Chris. Can you imagine that? The realtors were dropping like flies. I mean, like flies. This is where I entered the business. And I know that if you wanted to go get a mortgage on a house, it had to be a cheap house, or you just simply couldn't afford it. Mortgage brokers were going out of business quickly. 16.8. I remember sitting at lunch one day with a guy, and we had this conversation, and I said, I wonder if we're ever going to have interest rates down to 10% again. That's what I said back then. It's funny now. It wasn't funny then. So I've been through the up times and the down times, and I've never seen a time where people didn't want a place to rent. And here's what I believe. I believe we need a good recession.
I agree.
I'm waiting on another good recession. It's the best thing that could happen to a real estate investor, because now you've got sellers that aren't so hot, and you got buyers that need us worse than ever, because I put people in property that can't qualify for a loan and create that residual income we're talking about by lease optioning to them. And that will change. I've been through 6 cycles. The worst have been 2008. But think of what it'd be like if we can get people prepared today that can operate in this market, what kind of a field day they'll have when they get back into that market, which they will. I don't know when. People ask me, when's it going to turn again? I don't know. I always tell them it's going to turn on April the 23rd at 5 p.m. 2023. That's why, which is baloney. I have no idea. Neither does anybody else. And if they do, they're lying. So we can make a case for that all day. So I think what you're trying to say is that getting money out of a property is good. But here's what I'm telling people now, and it's hard for them to understand, I think, coming in. Flipping a house and making $15,000 is great, wholesaling it. But you can take that same house and put a tenant buyer in it as is without touching it on a work for equity, which is my favorite exit strategy when they need work, and collect almost, if not that full amount up front, and keep the golden goose alive. Collect that residual, get that debt paid down, get that appreciation, get that depreciation without selling that asset. In fact, I could put a work for equity tenant buyer in a house not as fast. There's nothing as fast as wholesaling houses today. I mean, I've never seen a better market for that in my entire life. And I'll grant it, that is the easiest way to make money in real estate, as long as you can find the deals. But then again, you make a little check, you give half of it away, and it's over. So as you know, I'm in a terms business. I like buying on terms and I sell on terms, and keep those golden goose alive. Because some smart guy once told me that the longer you own real estate, the more money you make. Flipping it just puts a short-term check in your pocket. So looking at it from back when you started, you were hungry, you needed money. Most do. What would you do different, knowing that you need that check now? That's the most important thing to you. What would you change?
I think it's still okay to make the check. I mean, you've been in the education business a while too. I mean, it's always sexier to be able to say I made, 15, 20,000 on a transaction than saying I just made $300 on a door this month, But like you said, I think having your cake and eating it too, can I do some transactional things, but then you can also cherry pick some of those best ones to say these ones are best for me and my portfolio, right? Like these ones I can actually take, hold on to, and make it my own. I think that's a great way to do it if you're just starting out, especially if you're already in the transaction process. Building up that cash, building up that capital, being liquid. I think right now, you kind of mentioned this too. I think really lending is going to become something that could become much better than what it is right now, where we've had low interest rates. Lending can kind of work, but if we start seeing banks start to tighten their grasp again, which they're already kind of doing a little bit, I've noticed. I mean, they've always been a little bit tighter than they were from the last recession. They always did, but I'm starting to see seller financing has been fun. We've been doing that with raw land and been getting great terms on those and loving it.
Me too.
So there's always opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you into the world of terms? buy on terms?
I don't do it actively. I mean, I work with a partner who does it more actively, and I'm more the passive financer of it.
Mm-hmm. Well,
But I'm always amazed by what you can do with terms. Like when I see it, I hear guys like you, or I hear like guys like Eddie Speed, and my head just starts spinning about all the creativity and possibilities you guys can do when you can buy and sell on terms.
well, that's my favorite part of the business. I've done it all.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, to be honest with you, it'd have to be a really good deal to get me to rehab a house. And I know there's good money in rehabbing, but I also know there's good grief in rehabbing, and a lot of ways to take some very serious lessons in it right now. Plus, you're not in control of the supply and prices and all that. Of course, the prices are going up fast to compensate for all of that, but terms is so much easier, so much quicker, so much more profitable. And you keep the golden goose alive, keep making money for a long time to come. So my philosophy is very simple. If I buy on terms, I sell on terms. If I pay cash, I sell on cash. So if I'm going to pay cash and rehab a house, I'm going to sell it, because I'm not putting tenant buyers in houses I just rehabbed anymore. I've already been to that seminar, and I don't want to do that one anymore. So I'm not saying I couldn't or I wouldn't, and probably shouldn't, but I don't want to have to rehab more than once. So, and what a great time to sell properties for cash even after you rehab them. I mean, everybody I talk to, they're going as fast as they can get them on the market. They're going for more than what they're, and that's not going to last. Trust me. I don't ever remember seeing a market, not even in 2005, did we have a market like we have today, but it will change. All right. Well, Chris, do you have something that you'd like to give away to our audience today by any chance?
You can actually, if you go to our website, moneyripples.com, we've got some particular playlists and things you can look at. Even for talking about ways to find and free up cash, we're just trying to find ways to find more money and be able to utilize it. We got an ebook on there called Beyond Rice and Beans, 7 Secrets to Free Up Cash Today. Actually, a lot of the skills I developed during the last recession when I was broke, and I had to figure out a way to create money almost out of thin air. So a lot of creative ways to be able to find and free up cash. And then there's also some other, YouTube playlists we have, I do a strategy called Max ROI, Infinite Banking, which I know infinite banking is not a new topic, but I've noticed most of the people that teach it out there are just insurance salesmen, but they're not real estate investors. And so I talk about a lot of different ways of how real estate investors use that to actually get double dip returns on the properties that they're investing in.
I teach people to use money when you're going to write a check and you're going to get a much bigger check back quickly, and tell them not to bury it in real estate because they're getting a zero rate of return, which takes a little minute to comprehend, I think.
Yeah.
Give the example here, because now I got our listeners wondering what the hell I'm talking about. If I buy $1 million worth of property and I have to put up $100,000 down, and I don't care how the rest is financed, then that $100,000 is stuck in that property for a long, long time. The only way to get it out is sell or refinance when the equity goes way up. And I'm totally against refinancing and personally guaranteeing debt. Absolutely, totally against. It's the biggest mistake people can make. So anyway, if I can buy that $1 million worth of property without using my money, which I can all day long, then I can take that $100,000 and use it for something that will make a high rate of return on it. Now, you and I both know that a high rate of return is different in our minds than it is in most people's minds. A high rate of return is single digit for most of America out there today. I'd rather have the money buried in a pillow than get a single digit return on it. I guess that's better than no return, though. I mean, with what we know, we can go out there and get 100% return in 30 days or 90 days or whatever, much less a single digit annually. So if I take that $100,000 and conservatively just invest it for 10 years into something that nets a 15% rate of return, and I keep the money out, keep it out, in 10 years, that $100,000 is worth $725,000. If I take that same $100,000 and I put it in that real estate for a down payment, like conventional wisdom tells me to do, that decision cost me $725,000 because I didn't have that money to invest in other things. This is a hard money lesson for people to understand. We do not bury money in real estate. We might use it to temporarily buy it, as long as we can. Like when I buy pretty house. If I have to give the seller a $10,000 down payment, it's only because I'm going to get a $25,000, $30,000 down payment back within 30 days. So I'm putting it out and then I'm getting it right back. And from then it's infinity rate of return. I don't have any money in it. If I'm going to buy a junker, I'm going to use private money. I'm going to borrow more than I need. I don't have any money in it. So I'm not putting my money in it. Then we take that money. Now, what do we do with this cash that we generate? Well, I can't think of a better place to use it than in real estate, that which we know. Now, of course, we could always put it in the stock market where it's safe, right?
Never.
Well, a lot of people make a lot of money in the stock market. I mean, in its defense, but on the other hand,
not the kind of returns you're talking about, though.
No,
I mean, I've known some of the best traders out there, and 20-25% is the real returns they actually get from their property or from their investing in stock markets. And truth is, they're gamblers.
And that's true, and that's their business, and that sucks up their life.
It does
all day long. The people that I know that have made the most money in stocks, and I'll take your comment on this, is the people that buy the big stocks and just keep them.
That's right, like Buffett.
Yeah, like many others, actually. In fact, I've got a few friends that have done very, very well just doing that. But that requires patience. Kind of like buying real estate and keeping it, isn't it? Huh?
It is.
The longer you own it, the more money you make.
Yeah. Well, there's a difference between someone just buying and trading stocks, right? Which is an active business, like you said. And there's a lot of people that have come to me saying, Chris, I need to learn how to create passive income because I can't do it in the stock market. And there are people that teach people how to trade in the stock market, right? Yeah. But you're right. Like people like Buffett, they're not stock traders. They're not investors like people think. Oh. They're actually people that are buying businesses, and they're buying a good interest in that business. So they have some control and ability to influence the returns of that business so that they can have more money coming back. They're really controlling business, not just trying to trade stocks and just gamble and hope that, they bet on black and it comes up black.
Yeah. Of course, then there's always crypto now. I mean, if it bought crypto in 2014, we'd be doing all right. But, we don't have a crystal ball. And I can tell you that nothing ever served me better than real estate. It's always going to be there, always has been there. And I'm kind of like the one that danced with the one who brung me. That doesn't mean we can't go out and make money other ways. I mean, come on. You and I both know that there's plenty of ways to make money. And real estate has been the launching pad for a whole lot of people in my world that I've helped put into the training information marketing career. But it started with them in my class learning how to do real estate. And then they specialized in some part of it. And I went out and I helped them create training systems. And they make a lot of money at that. So what? Doesn't mean we are going to abandon the one who brung us. And there's a lot of people who started in single family houses, graduate to apartments and self-storage and whatever in commercial. I teach that as well. So what? Nothing wrong with that. But it starts with getting cash flow. Take care of today's cash flow needs first before worrying about building an empire, just like you told me you did when you started way back. Me too, man. When I started, I had absolutely nothing. I mean, I didn't know what cash flow was. But that first $3,000 check was extremely important to me looking back. It was a very important check. All right. So we are about out of time. So I'm going to give you a chance to tell our audience your best piece of advice, your most brilliant piece of advice of the day, Chris, for our people watching this and are just entering the real estate space.
Yeah. I think wise real estate investors realize that boring is sexy, right? The more boring, the more you can do something like the back of your hand, the better the deal is. Where I invest more passively versus actively now, I always look for other investors or operators that, do something just over and over. It's like that movie, Remember the Titans, where, they say, hey, you only have 6 plays here. Where are all the rest of the plays? Where are the trick plays? He says, just 6 plays. It's just like Novocaine. You just got to give it time. It always works. Right. And I think that's the case. Like people hate hearing it, but just like you and I have learned over the last, you've had more recessions I've had. I had 3 recessions to go through, but you've had 6 plus. And definitely I've learned, boring is sexy. The more boring the deal, the easier it is just to be predictable. And it provides, like you said, cash flow and profit, the better the deal. And that's exactly, I think everybody should have burned in their brain, especially if they're a younger investor.
Yeah. I think that means hold on, don't sell, because you're not going to get the cash flow if you sell. And all right, well, I think you and I are both on the same mindset of that. So tell them, I don't think you told us how you want to give away something or not. It's up to you.
Yeah, I mentioned that there's that ebook on moneyripples.com. You can go check out.
Okay, moneyripples.com. All right.
Yep.
Okay.
As well as certain playlists. I've got like YouTube playlists on certain topics and things like that. Of course, as well, if you listen to podcasts, you can always go follow the Chris Miles Money Show on YouTube, iTunes, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Okay.
That you were just on recently.
All right. I was.
Yeah, you were on just late last year.
Oh, okay. That's nice to know. Well, listen, if you guys want to, if you're watching this and you don't know anything about this terms thing I've been discussing, go to ronlegrand.com/terms. And you'll find a online training. It's about an hour, 10 minutes long or so, where I go through step by step on how we buy on terms and sell on terms and where the big money is in real estate today. And even in this hot market, and it doesn't matter where you live and it doesn't matter your experience. And it doesn't matter if you have money or credit. In fact, if you have credit, you'll see on there, well, I will forbid you. In fact, I will personally harm you if I catch you personally guaranteed debt. I truly have this big, ugly dude named Guido I will send after you if I catch you personally guaranteeing debt. So go and play that, and you'll see what I do and what hundreds of thousands of people are doing around the country every day, and why the wealth is not in selling real estate. Well, Chris, thank you very much, sir. It's a pleasure. You're a great guy to interview. And maybe next time we can get you out of a hotel room and into a real house or an office or something while you're not.
One of these days.
All right, man. Okay. Well, thank you very much. And thank all of you for listening to the Mentor Podcast. See you soon.
That's all for this edition of the Mentor Podcast. To connect with Ron and learn how you can attain financial freedom, as well as up-to-date strategies to grow and protect your wealth based on today's discussion, go to www.connectwiththementor.com.